All right. That video released by the Biden-Harris campaign just moments ago. Jen Palmieri, I heard some key phrases there that we've heard before from President Biden. Let's finish the job. What can we expect in the next few weeks? Will Democrats get behind President Biden?
Yeah. I mean, I think if anybody thought that they could beat him, they would be running. The fact that, I think they're going into this race with a great record of accomplishment. A lot more that can be done. Biden even laid out an agenda in that video. Low approval ratings. It's a difficult time to be president. It's a very divided country. But if somebody thought that they could win the nomination, if somebody thought that they could do better than him in the general election, they would be running. And nobody thinks that because they think that, Biden is the person that we have coalesced around 4 years ago and still the best person to unite the country. And if it's Trump, that's that's the best move. And if it's not, Biden proved in the midterms that he can also defeat Trumpism, even if it's a different kind of MAGA Republican that's at the head of the ticket.
So, Gene, for all the polling we've seen where even Democrats say we don't want Joe Biden to run for re-election, if you ask the second question, which is, will you vote for him if he does it? Well, of course we will.
Oh, yeah, of course
we will. So it's getting into the race. As Jen said, it's keeping other people out of the race.
Exactly.
That video goes at extremism that we've seen hurt Republicans, abortion, guns, things like that.
Abortion, guns, you saw cameos by Marjorie Taylor Greene and Ron DeSantis. Interestingly, I don't know if we saw Donald Trump or not, but we certainly saw DeSantis. That's the argument. And a big part of Joe Biden's argument in 2020 was, I'm sanity, and this other party is crazy, and so please vote for me. And that's going to be the argument again.
And the argument, John, which is similar in 2020, which is we need to stop Donald Trump from sitting in the White House. And Joe Biden did that job in 2020. It's his job again in 2024. The age question is out there. It's not us saying it. It's polling that says it, even among Democrats who support Joe Biden. He'll be pushing his 82nd birthday on Election Day. He would be 86 at the end of his second term. We should point out Donald Trump would be the second oldest president. He's about to be 77 years old.
Yeah, he's just a few years younger there. The president has, since taking office, has said it was his expectation to run again. He always would caveat it that he's a believer in fate. He acknowledged that things could change, but this was always his plan. It's going to be a very slow election ramp up here. This is about raising money. This is about starting the fundraising process for the money that's going to be needed for what will be an extraordinarily expensive general election campaign. Today, though, he is giving a speech about his manufacturing plans. He's addressing a union in D.C., which is appropriate enough. We should also note the vice president today addressing about abortion rights. So that is the pillars here. It's the economic comeback, and it's the women's right to choose and personal freedoms. Those are what this administration has been about, and that's what this campaign is going to be about. And yes, a potential rematch with Donald Trump looms. That's a race this White House likes. They think that they would beat him again, but we're obviously a long way from November 2024, but that journey starts today.
Joe, we also noted, the four of us sitting at the table, a lot of Vice President Harris in that video to go along with the message about extremism on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about the vice president and are they going to replace the vice president? And you always get this, by the way. You always get this. The vice president's always turned into a secondary figure for good reason, but also a lot of people leading up to re-election campaigns will say, well, are they going to dump this? But no, she's there.
She's their voice on abortion.
Yeah, and she certainly has been their voice on abortion. She had a successful trip to Africa. And Gene Robinson, there's absolutely no reason why they should upset the apple cart. As it said, Joe Biden not only beat Donald Trump, Joe Biden did something that no Democratic, no president has done since 1934 with FDR.
Right.
And he actually picked up governor seats, in his first midterm re-election. He also did, obviously, extraordinarily well, leading the party during the midterms in the United States Senate as well, and wildly outperformed Kevin McCarthy's own expectations in the House. So these numbers, these soft numbers right now, this matters as much as the soft numbers in the summer and the fall of 2022, and people whining, Democrats especially, whining and whimpering and bedwetting about how weak Joe Biden is. Go back and look at what you were saying in the summer and the fall of 2022, how there was going to be a red wave. It never materialized because Biden is normal. There's craziness everywhere. When people pick up the phones, do they go, oh my God, I'm so excited about it. Hope and change. It's morning in America. Zippity doo-dah, zippity. No. What they do is they think, he's all right. And then they go into the voting booth and they go, normalcy.
That's what I'm looking for.
America
Normalcy.
is America again. There's not the fascism. There's not the radicalism. There's not the violent overthrow of governments attempted. Here's a guy that does his job, works with Republicans, gets things done. That may not show up in polls a year later, but that's something that probably will put the Democrats back in the White House for another 4 years.
No, I think it probably will. I mean, all the hand-wringing. God gave Democrats hands in order to wring them, right? So they could, and that's what Democrats do. And frankly, I think the sort of, will they dump the vice president? It's been particularly, and I think unfairly, intense about this vice president, about Vice President Harris. She connects with parts of the Democratic base in a really important and valuable and significant way that I think people don't acknowledge enough. So this is the team. This is the team that won in 2020. This is the team that's going to run again in 2024 and make the same argument, I think, that they made, except they've got the accomplishments also to tout. And then the abortion issue is so salient now. That's going to be a big part of this campaign.
And to that, Jen, there was never any suggestion that President Biden was going to dump the vice president. In fact, how prominently she features here in the video is part of what aides have been saying to me all along. There's an understanding the vice president's going to play a much more central role to the campaign this time around, and it's an implicit acknowledgement of the president's age. That he is 82. He will be 82 years old, taking another term in office. That's by far the oldest president we've ever had. She is indeed one heartbeat away. The Republican attacks have already started. They're going to be making that argument, and the Biden team wants to say, "Look, we are not only comfortable with this choice, we're excited about the choice. She's part of this."
Right. That she is, and you see her as part. I mean, that was we saw her a lot in that video. That was a very deliberate thing, and I know from doing these kinds of things, these kinds of videos before, you think really carefully about how you're going to present the team, those two as a pair. And it does show, I think that, I've written a lot about this, about how Harris in particular, first woman of color, is sort of covered in this job and treated in this job. But when you see what she's actually doing, the trip down to Nashville, all of the work on abortion, a lot of the work on voting rights.
And all the foreign policy, too.
The foreign policy trip to Africa. These are key issues that for the Biden-Harris team. And it is, they want to show you this is our leadership team. She is very much part of it. And it's smart to back her that way.
Yeah, we're